Feels good.
I have it in the office.
Today wasn't so
You're right. Sure.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the schedule of meetings of the Township Council established and adopted by Township Council, which schedules designated time, date, and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We're using electronic amplifying recording device in order to obtain a clear and audible record, and request all those wishing to speak to recognize and state your name and address directly to the microphone. The recording device be solely utilized by the Township Clerk's Office for the preparation of minutes and shall be the official record of the Township Council meetings. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
Mr. Hutchison. Present. Ms. Grace. Here. Mr. Mignon.
Here.
Mrs. Stubbs. Mrs. Winters. Here. Mr. Mercado.
Present.
Mr. Carlemere.
Here.
Mr. Cardis.
Here.
Chief Harkins.
Here.
Mr. Chavo.
Here.
Mr. Petrangelo.
Here. We're going to flip flop and go to, we have a closed session where we have two personnel matters to discuss and also discuss the appointment of a new council member. No action will take place in that room regarding the appointment of the council member. I would anticipate we may be in there for about a half hour. Thank you. I entertain a motion. I'll make a motion. Go to closed session. Second. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Okay, Sam, I stand corrected on Reese Hoskins. I knew that when you said it, I didn't say anything. Yes. Every year.
That's all. You know, if you don't mind, if you don't, no problem. I'm just trying to get there.
We're going to delay. Looking at delaying. We're not going to do that. $4 million problem. It takes work to find $4 million. It's not work. Now finding those, find a couple of million, or delaying the project.
Yeah, I just did it here.
That's why.
I'll have to say, text me.
It worked, obviously.
Something you need, and you can't do anything about, you can't do anything about failure. Not doing something. So wave your hands all over the place.
Here, I'm surprised. College Drive,
He just won't pass. I grew up with the there's a certain area. It's not water. Not on an everyday basis, not water. Especially not in children's houses. She traveling that was done.
Yes.
Different. There's two. Right.
Where you talk about the other side of the shop. I'm college.
Sorry. Yeah, this part.
What happened? Just a mock.
Black Rock was intended to design expanded to county road. We are inspecting it. Safety and everything else still happens to be inspecting it, but we have.
Not the county. There may be times, just because I was just gonna say that. And see what it says. And then if you want, you guys to see if something will take us down. Because that's only.
That's why apartment cases.
I don't see.
I'll inspect it and see if there's anything.
And he can pitch on Saturdays. I could have pulled any record. I'll say as a matter of he pitch on Saturdays, so it's possible.
Did you ever?
I could have pulled out.
They move on down
Yeah. If they ever try that. To the final. My council. By Democrat, first, being the cousin, I had to be my cousin. And also, you can't watch Jeopardize what? Jeopardize what? Did you play, Howard? Did you really think you were winning power? Just saying. Saying. Supporting the right thing. Or have the right policy. Support the right policy. You're so right.
See? Fine, I can just concentrate on this whole thing. I don't know. Like, do I report to him?
We're trying to decipher what games are. What the game is.
How are you doing? Yeah, no, we're just, it's been busy. It's my kids are, my kids are at the age where we're running, and my daughter is 14 and my son's 11, so we're like running everywhere, Yeah, well, my son does, so we live around, my son plays football for our schools, and it's a commitment. Like, Thursday from 6 to 8, and then 8 to Saturday, so they started all again, yeah. I know, and then it gets expensive, between.
They don't know first.
Yeah. I'm like, if you look upset, and I love watching them play. kind of sad, but football season, because it's just a lot, like, I just do, I feel like I'm all day. Oh, he's little, so he's only under 5 years. Like he weighed in at 75 pounds. So he's like a running back and he plays sprinter. So he's like, he's like one of the kids that's constantly running. So yeah. So yeah, for defense, probably on the quarterback on the ends, and then they just started teaching them how to be a running back. So I'm just really hoping that he's not going to get a touchdown, but yeah. So yeah. Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he likes it, so, I mean, that's fine, as long as they're having fun and, I mean, it keeps them, now these things are just different because, all they're in front of the video games all day long, so I'm like, yeah, so I was like, at least I need to get them doing that.
It's almost funny how many.
Oh.
DRS is up here. Oh, boy.
I just said, Tom's low, it's He was famous out the world.
I don't like to go back.
I'm not mad. You know what I said, I know what you said. I know that. Spirit, it takes longer.
The long drive out nose means doesn't know.
Oh.
Otherwise, I can store all my.
Okay, but you should put it in the truck anyway, because she's never at your dining room table.
She's never here.
Ever. Good idea. Because I saw your eyes.
Can I have the roll call again, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Hutchison?
Present.
Ms. Grace? Here. Mr. Mignon?
Here.
Mrs. Stubbs? Mrs. Winters? Here. Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Parliament?
Here.
Mr. Cordis?
Here.
Chief Harkins?
Here.
Mr. Chavo?
Here.
Mr. Strongbow?
Here.
The two matters we discussed, the workers' comp issues, and a settlement agreement is going back to that employee's legal counsel. At this time, I entertain a motion to appoint a council member. So Resolution 2210-311, resolution confirming the appointment of a council member to fill the unexpired term of Tracy Trotto pursuant to NJSA 40A 16-11. So we can pass this resolution, then name an individual.
You can move the resolution, you can move the resolution with the name of the individual and do one vote.
Okay, then we'll do that then. Is there a nomination for appointment of a councilman?
I'd like to make a motion nominating Helen Albright as a councilman.
Is there a second? We have a motion to nominate Helen Albright Troxel to the open council seat. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes, congratulations, Ms. Albright Troxel. You're going to be seated this evening.
Thank you.
If you can come on up, we'll swear you in. Left hand on the Bible, place your right hand up. Okay. You can repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state. And I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, to the governments established in this state and the United States. I further solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of council member in Gloucester Township to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Oh, absolutely.
I just want to thank the committee for giving me an opportunity to serve the public again and to serve my community. Thank you.
Thank you. In addition to that, we have a open vice president seat on council. So I entertain a motion, a resolution to appoint a council member, and I'll accept any nomination.
I'd like to nominate, Mr. Young.
Is there any other nominations? On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Minio? Ms. Carter, you hold that Bible for us as well?
Yes, I gave it to her.
You place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. That I will support. The Constitution. Of the United States. And the Constitution of this state. And that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. And to the governments established in this state and the United States. Under the authority of the people. I further solemnly swear. I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of council vice president to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. Miguel. Mr. Mignon taking off the rest of the evening. Okay, now we open up our public portion, but before we do that, there was 4 bid reports that were not included on the agenda by accident, but I'm going to have the clerk read those 4 bid reports before we go to public portion.
2022 environmental cleanup of 3, 5, and 7 South Black Horse Pike. 5 and 7 South Black Horse Pike demolition. And 2022 facade construction of 3 South Black Horse Pike.
and online tax sale hosting services.
Okay. Now we'll open up the first public. No, we'll do that after the public portion. We're gonna read that, and then we'll do that. So let's still open the first public portion. This is for agenda items only. Anyone wishing to speak, raise your hand. Each speaker is entitled to 3 minutes. There's a total of 15 minutes during the first public portion. Mr. Polidoro.
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidoro from the Historical Village of Ariel.
Good evening.
On some, I don't do this often, but on some evenings, an occasion may arise where there may be concerns, issues, or what have you, to township. And I was wondering if Council President and Council would consider extending the second public portion. It's my thought that this body would want to be more concerned with hearing from the people than putting a time limit on that. So if it does occur that there are more people who would like to speak second public portion, you would extend that courtesy to the public and see if we can get more people be heard tonight. Like I said, we don't do it that often, but tonight might be that occasion.
I think we're gonna keep the public portion at 30 minutes. I think that the speaker should be cognizant that other speakers may want to speak and state their case and within their time period.
But you realized that by putting 5 minutes, you were limited to that much. So you would rather set the clock than hear from the public? Is that what I'm hearing?
There is a 30-minute, there's 2 public portions. We have ample time. There's also ordinances for public hearings as well.
But suppose 8 people want to speak. 8 people want to speak are not going to happen, no matter how many hands are up. Like I said, if you would only consider it, sometimes the public portion is more important than the clock. And you know that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Polidoro. Is there anyone else? Ms. Smith?
Hello, good evening, Council. My name is Shaughnessy Smithman. I reside in the SDK Millbridge Gardens apartment complex on Millbrook Court, apartment 341, although that is not how you write the address. I typically do not speak during the consent agenda. I noticed that there's a regular agenda, consent agenda, and now there's ordinances. This one's a little different today. Is it possible for me to make a comment or inquiry about something in the second reading for the ordinance? Can I, during this time?
There's a public hearing that takes place. You can speak during that public hearing.
All right, so then for the consent agenda, I do have something else I would like to bring up if I could.
Okay.
I noticed that they are asking for a grant to pay for a machine that will help assist with reading license plates as cars are driving by. I assume that's to help with cars traffic.
That's the police department. Yes.
I don't know how many people are aware. I've driven my entire life in New Jersey. The roads go pretty fast. The attention to detail is much different when you walk. I did notice in my past 7 to 8 years of walking the streets of New Jersey that there are several, they seem to be imitation license plates. They're made of paper. I'm finding them on the ground because when my car was no longer drivable, I had to turn in the driver's license plates. They suspended my license. I didn't realize how on it they were to try to keep up with that, to make sure you hand in the license plate. With that, seeing them on the ground, I wanted to turn them into the local police department, lost and found, in case somebody else didn't know that. And I noticed that some of them were made of paper. I hope that this grant, I hope that they recognize that who they can determine whether or not the license plate itself is fake or not. If you're going to put the money, spend the money to help them identify the vehicle, is there a way that they can also identify whether or not it's a fraudulent license plate tag in the first place?
Chief, does that reader?
Yes, it will. It will notice that there doesn't match anything in the database.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Heimbaugh?
Good evening, Peter Heimbaugh, Morningstar Court.
Good evening.
One agenda item as an expenditure for environmental cleanup on a property on Black Horse Pike, but what's the environmental issue on that property?
Which resolution are you referring to? Oh, that, the Black Horse Pike, it's Black Horse Pike.
Yeah,
Oh, 3, 5, and 7. Those are the.
what's the environmental issue with this question?
White buildings.
Excuse me?
It's asbestos.
Is, did we purchase it knowing that was an issue? When Gloucester Township purchased this building?
We were aware there was issues.
Did that affect the purchase price the township paid? Did that reduce?
I couldn't tell you that, I don't know.
So the seller,
118 for the bank property, and I believe it was 55,000 for each of the two white buildings that are next to the bank.
so the previous property owner, the seller, has no liability for this asbestos cleanup?
Defer to Mr. Carlin.
That was in the shingles, was it not? I recall. The asbestos that was found.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, don't recall without looking at those, whether it was the bank building being preserved or one of the 5 or 7 which is being demolished. So you're aware that's what's happening in the bank building? The bank building was right there in the corner. That's being preserved and converted to community.
Black box.
I'm aware of that. I just want to know if there's anything, we were purchasing an environmental problem at the same time. That's and a liability. We were purchasing an environmental liability when we acquired that building.
It was either in the interior insulation area or the shingles, exterior shingles that they used back then. So.
Okay. My second question is regarding the $4 million. We're going to vote to bond for the emergency appropriation. Can you, I do see we're self-insured for health care for the employees. Where expenditures are going to go over what we budgeted for that to pay self-insurance. Don't we have a kind of catastrophic insurance policy to cover when it exceeds, when healthcare expenses exceed a certain threshold? Don't we have doesn't the township have some kind of policy that kicks in at a threshold? I thought that was part of.
We do, we have an aggregate attachment point. The problem here is we have sustained catastrophic losses. We've been self-insured since 1991. We have saved millions and millions of dollars while being self-insured. Only in, I believe, 2002 did we experience a similar situation. It's basically a situation where you have multiple individuals, and again, because of HIPAA regulations, I can't get into too much, and that cumulative effect drives up the total expenses, and a big portion of that happens to be prescriptions. I guess I can say this, but there are some prescriptions that are as high as $17,000 a month. Some that are $10,000 a month, some that are $13,000 a month, and I guess that's all because of copyrights and things of that nature. But occasionally this does happen. We are working very closely with the health broker to come up with a plan for 2023. We did not foresee this. I will tell you that over the past 5 years, we budgeted appropriately and we were within our budget. This year, we've been keeping an eye on this, and I was concerned about this going back to July, and I met regularly with CFO Eric, and we were looking at this also with Carla Jeffy, my HR person, and there was no way that this was going to end well. And so we are heading for somewhere in the high 3.7, 3.8.
I did see you specified some figures in the on the detail on the agenda. Has anything else been considered to fund this $4 million besides borrowing? Like, for example, COVID funds, for example, over borrowing for other capital projects. That's an annual pattern in Gloucester Township. We always have a capital balance when we over borrow for capital projects. Has there been any other consideration given to fund this $4 million besides more bonding?
With the COVID money, as we stated at the last meeting, Tom is starting to formulate a budget and start meeting with our department directors and work with the CFO on crafting a budget. Me personally, I would want to dedicate the COVID money to next year's budget.
Any other source of, here we are, we're at the end of October. We can probably forecast pretty accurately.
Mr. Heimel, sorry I cut you off. Okay.
You're not sorry, but I understand you got to tell me my time's up.
Again, the first speaker asked to expand the time period, and I asked that speakers. Anyone else would like to speak? Close public portion. We have ordinance of first reading. Ms. Albright Troxel, I would recommend, and I guess let's to abstain from everything. You abstain from all these things.
I intend to.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. Ordinance of first reading, introduction. Bear with me. Ordinance 0-22-21, refunding bond ordinance providing funds to pay an emergency appropriation self-insurance fund budget deficit, authorizing the issuance of up to $4 million of general obligation refunding bond to the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, New Jersey, to finance the cost thereof, making certain determinations and covenants in connection therewith, and authorizing certain related actions in connections with the foregoing. Stated earlier, Mr. Carrs had mentioned we are a self-funded plan. We have received some catastrophic claims. There are times where, as a self-funded municipality, that we come out in the black most years. This is not the case this year. This is something that, in the time that I've been on council, we have never bonded for health insurance or done this. This is not something that we take lightly. I entertain a motion.
Make that motion.
Is there a second? Second. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace? Yes. Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Reynolds? Yes. Mr. Prado?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright?
Next is ordinance 0-22-22. It's the first reading introduction. There'll be a hearing at the second reading. It's ordinance amending the Gloucester Township Land Development Ordinance, the Villages of Gloucester Township Redevelopment Plan, and the new Vision Redevelopment Area Plan. What this does, puts in a new section regarding marijuana dispensaries or any medical cannabis dispensaries operating under a classified New Jersey state marketplace conditional micro business license, that they're conditionally permitted so long as they meet the following criteria. No closer than 2,000 feet to a lot containing any retail dispensary facility, no closer than 1,000 feet to any public or private school serving K-12 daycare facility or public park. Dispensaries may utilize a drive-through window so long as the drive-through window is not the sole method of conducting retail sales. Drive-through windows shall be utilized for appointment-based pickups only. The site provides for a queuing capacity of at least 5 vehicles. No closer than 500 feet to any single, double, or multifamily residential use. The facility may be open to customers from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Parking requirements shall be in accordance with the Gloucester Township Land Development Ordinance, and the proximity buffers outlined within subsections shall be satisfied when a roadway with at least 4 lanes of travel, excluding turn lanes, is present within the radius measurement. The proximity buffer shall, under these circumstances, extend only to the boundary of the subject roadway. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Reynolds? Yes. Mr. Prado?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright?
Abstain.
Next is ordinance second reading of public hearing. There will be a public hearing on the following ordinances: 0-22-14, ordinance of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, to amend the permitted uses within the residential attached and highway commercial zoning districts. This is in regards to agriculture uses in existence prior to December 31st. Anything you would add to that, Mr. Chadwell? Okay, we'll now open up the public hearing. Ms. Smithman.
Hi, good evening, Shaughnessy Smithman. I live in the SDK Millbridge Gardens apartment complex, apartment 341 on Millbrook Court. Okay. I'm permitted to inquire about the ordinances now. This is the
On
section.
this particular ordinance, you raised your hand for 14. This is about highway, commercial, and residential.
Are we doing them individually?
Yes.
Oh, I apologize. In the year that I've been attending the city council meetings, it's always been
Not for ordinances, they're separated.
I apologize.
You want to grab a seat and
I will
when
take- I
we
will
talk
take my
about
seat.
you, I'll point to you.
Apologize.
Okay, no, not a problem. Anyone else? Close the public hearing, entertain a motion. Good. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Winter?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright?
Abstain.
Next is ordinance 0-22-15, ordinance amending chapter 15 of the Code of the Township of Gloucester entitled Police Department of the Code of the Township of Gloucester. This updates the code for our police department. Anything you want to add to that, Chief Harkins?
No, it's just as I spoke at the last meeting, this ordinance, I think, was originally passed in 1993. There's some tweaking that needed to be modernization. Some of the civil service statutes need to be updated, and this is accurate as to how we're operating as far as the organization of the police department. So it was just based on a good, as part of the accreditation process that we're going through and making sure that our ordinance is totally up to speed. Thank you.
We'll now open up the public portion. Anyone wishing to speak, please raise your hand. Ms. Smith.
Hello, good evening, council. My name is Shaughnessy Smithman. I live in the SDK Millbridge Gardens apartment complex on Millbrook Court, apartment 341. I was reading the ordinance 022-15, amending the chapter 15 of the code township, let's see, title police department. It's pretty technical. CIC has to do with the function of government and the council's right to investigate different areas of the function of the police department as well as other areas. Is that basically what?
No,
This
this is
ordinance is for?
updating regulations for the police department.
It says updating, but it also gave permission for the council to investigate anything that has to do with the local police department.
Council President.
Yes.
So that is an unchanged portion that's always been. Council does have the purview to appoint committees to look into certain aspects of the police operation. That is unchanged from our current ordinance.
Thank you.
While working as an inside journeyman wireman with the local Union 98, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, there was a man, Steve Galbraith. He was audited by the Internal Revenue Service, and he had asked them, you sure you want to do that? And the Internal Revenue Service said, yeah, absolutely, and they went back 10 years. Turns out he was owed tens of thousands of dollars because he had overpaid his taxes. They owed him money. And when he had asked them that had he owed the Internal Revenue Service that same money, he would be imposed fines and penalties for the interest that could have been earned on that money with the government. And he said, does that go the other way too? Like, do you owe me that same amount? And they actually kind of had to do that. They had to pay him the fines and interest that they owed him because he overpaid the taxes. While reviewing the amendment to the police department, I didn't notice anything that it went the other way. Does the police department or any other entity have the right to also vice versa investigate council or other members of the governing body for the Township of Gloucester?
So that is Typically, that function goes to the county prosecutor's office or the New Jersey Attorney General's office. However, we would take direction from the county prosecutor as the chief law enforcement officer in the county. Those types of, that type of crime is investigated by those agencies.
Thank you.
Clearly, so there's no
Conflict of interest.
Well, like I said, I noticed that the council has the right, and it was written in their words, to abide by all the laws of the county, that they have the right to investigate the different entities, including the police department. Does the police department, are they afforded the same right to, like I said, vice versa, investigate the council that's investigating them? Are they at least given that right and the funds to supply their, the lawyer, the attorney to, like I said, vice versa, investigate the people investigating them? Is that ever considered?
So, just to be clear, what council would do is administratively look at how the functioning of the police department was, not necessarily criminal investigations. There's a whole internal affairs function. Again, we're accountable to the county prosecutor's office, who handles internal affairs functions on our end. But if a crime was reported to any of us, any police officer, by anyone who committed, whether they be a council person, whether they be an employee here, or whether they be any citizen, there is a process where we had an intake of that complaint and we refer it to the appropriate law enforcement agency depending on what the crime is. Could be the FBI, could be the state attorney general's office, but in most cases, it's our county prosecutor that we would direct that to.
And you have the right to investigate the people investigating you, is what I'm asking. They went and they put a lot of words and law and effort into making sure that they could investigate the
For
law enforcement.
administrative things, not crimes, not crimes. Council doesn't investigate crimes on law enforcement.
Ms. Smith, this ordinance is administrative, and it outlines the different articles there. It's talking about the establishment of the police department, the purpose of the aligned authority, appointments and promotions,
I know it's dizzying.
vacation and sick time, but this is updating that.
If we didn't
Continue to
follow
ask
the
questions,
item-
but I'm not.
I just
I'm
want to
sure
make sure
it's
that the civil servants have the right to, like I said, vice versa, be given the same opportunity to investigate those that are investigating the crimes itself. Growing up as the youngest child, I find that the biggest criminals are the ones that accuse. Within my family's function, the nuclear family, I find that the biggest criminals are the guardians and not necessarily the parents. On a larger scale, in a council meeting, I noticed that there was a lot of effort and education that went into making sure that you could investigate the civil servants. I wanted to make sure that they were afforded the same defense and right to investigate those investigating them. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Close the public hearing. I entertain a motion. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace? Yes. Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Scruggs? Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright? Abstain.
Next is ordinance 0-22-16. There will be a hearing. Ordinance amending chapter 72 of the Code of the Township of Gloucester entitled Streets and Sidewalks of the Code of the Township of Gloucester. This deals with amending to include paving, final paving and surface restoration. Now open up the public hearing. Seeing none, close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Scruggs? Yes. Mrs. Winters? Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright? Abstain.
Next is ordinance -22-17. Ordinance authorizing execution of a tax abatement agreement between the Township of Gloucester and Amper Development LLC for premises block 13303, lot 2 pursuant to C441 PL 1991 NJSA 4821-1 et sec, and ordinance number 0-19-16. This provides a tax abatement, 5-year tax abatement on the improvements of the property for the Burger King property on Blackwood Clementon Road. And I entertain a motion. I'll open up the public hearing. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace? Yes. Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright?
Abstain.
Next is ordinance 0-22-18. There will be a public hearing. Ordinance authorizing execution of a tax abatement agreement between the Township of Gloucester and Emerson Drive Equities LLC for premises block 13301, lot 1 pursuant to C 441 PL 1991 NJSA 48-21-1 at sec, and ordinance number 0-19-16. This is the Chipotle property restaurant on 1410 Blackwood Clementon Road. We're now open up the public hearing. Again, this is a 5-year tax abatement on the improvements to the building, not the property, the land. Mr. Krug.
Evening, Council. Paul Krug, Blackwood Estates. Is this for the property housing Chipotle, Smoothie King, and Wingstop, or is this for the suite that is housing Chipotle specifically?
No, it's connected. So it is. Not sure. It's the entire property or the.
I believe it's the entire property.
It would make sense to me that the developer of that property would be the one submitting for the pilot, I would assume, as opposed to those renting out the individual suites.
Correct.
But I just want to know if we're going to have 3 separate submissions, or this is the submission that encompasses those 3 businesses.
Let me ask, Mr. Carlos,
Yes.
would it make a difference with 3 separate submissions or 1 submission by the developer? Or is it, are we talking about 6 and 1/2 dozen?
So they're all connected to the same building, so I think it's for the entire building. Mr. Carmen, are you agree? or-
Yeah, so I'm just trying to envision, this is the site on Blackwood Clementon Road. And corner to corner, the 4 corners of that Chipotle restaurant, one's, do they have ground in addition to that? Is that your question? So then the improvement would have.
This is where the old Denny's was.
Yeah.
Denny's was demolished and they built this new structure and it's split into 3.
So procedurally, when they're issued their CO, then they're permitted to activate the abatement, which is the improvement, not necessarily the basic land tax. Anything that would increase the assessment, that's what applies to the 5-year abatement.
And the abatement's going to Emerson Drive Equity LLC.
Let's get some more information on this. Can I have a motion to table this? We'll bring it back at the next meeting. To see if it's all, because listen, when we had the outlets, it was the whole outlet. It wasn't just individual stores.
You have time because it doesn't go into effect until January.
Have a motion on the question to table. Roll call.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Krug.
Yes. Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright?
Abstain.
Next is ordinance 0-22-19, ordinance authorizing execution of tax abatement agreement between the Township of Gloucester and GLR Enterprises LLC for premises block 13303, lot 1 pursuant to C 441 PL 1991 NJSA 48-21-1 et sec, and ordinance number 0-19-16. This is for the Philomena expansion, Philomena Restaurant on 1330 Blackwood Clementon Road. Again, this is for the improvements on it, a 5-year tax abatement. We'll open up the public hearing. Mr. Heimbaugh.
It's Peter Heimbaugh, Morningstar Court. Mr. Carlemere, could you repeat the description of what the abatement is on that you just mentioned?
So let's just talk about Philomena's. They did that addition for outdoor dining. So that increases their assessment. So the basic Philomena's that existed prior tax structure remains the same. When they get the CO for that addition, then they can apply for abatement for that portion of the increase in taxes.
Just the value added to for the increase. Well, when we're talking about the Denny's property, there was a building there that was torn down and new building erected. Is the abatement just on the net that old building would have had a value at the time before it was demolished and a new building replaced. Is the abatement just on the net increase of this new building versus the value of the old building that was demolished?
My sense is that it's on the new structure.
On the
that
building.
increased in value.
That contradicts with your description of how abatement should be.
So you have Chipotle's, you have vacant ground. I think the structure of the old establishment there can get a restructure on its taxes. But when someone comes in and builds this Chipotle, there is an assessment and tax change that affects that piece of property. So the tax assessor, and that's probably where the question should go, how that tax is structured. My sense is it's structured on the ground, then the improvement that's coming in. And then the improvement is what the abatement goes in over the 5-year period.
So we as a township are given an abatement on more than just the net increase of assessed value.
I'm showing you.
I think that you understand.
Yeah, no, I hear you loud and clear. I would think, just practically speaking, that when you remove the structure, the new assessment is going to be based on land. And then when you build something.
It isn't to the taxpayers.
Beyond that.
Taxpayers, there was an assessed value on that old building. You tore it down, put something up. So there's just a net difference as benefits the taxpayers, as benefits rateable to the taxpayers.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think logically though, it's gonna go down.
Yeah, logically.
To a vacant piece of
Yeah.
ground.
Right.
I understand what you're saying too, but it seems to be a net detriment to the taxpayers, giving them that full abatement when there used to be a rateable at X. We tore X down and have a new assessed value of Y, but we're giving them a full abatement.
My
On
point
that
would be,
property.
if it's uniform throughout the state, I don't have a problem. I hate to think that we're doing it differently than other.
Yeah, I'm saying it's inherently unfair, statewide, I guess, it's inherently unfair to the rest of the tax, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. D'Amico.
Good evening, council. Joe D'Amico, Blackwood, Autumn Court. I'm just curious about the terms of the pilot, if we have any. You said it's 5 years. Can you speak to the terms, Mr. Curtis?
First year is 0, so, and this is on the improvements. Second year is 30, 50, 70, 90, and then year 6, they start paying 100%.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Thank you.
Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace? Yes. Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright?
Next is ordinance 0-22-20, ordinance authorizing execution of tax abatement agreement between Township of Gloucester and Gemstone Cross Keys LLC for premises block 18501, lot 12.01 pursuant to C441 PL 1991 NJSA 48 21-1 et sec, and ordinance number 0-19-16. This is for the Urban Air property off Cross Keys Road. We'll now open up the public hearing. Close public hearing. I entertain a motion. Second it. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright?
Before we go to the consent agenda, clerk, can I have the bid reports again and we'll vote on those?
Yes. Online tax sale hosting services, 2022 facade construction of 3 South Blackhorse Pike, 2022 demolition of 5 and 7 South Blackhorse Pike, 2022 environmental cleanup of 3, 5, and 7 South Blackhorse Pike.
I entertain a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright?
Next, we have our consent agenda. Any council member that would like to have any of the items removed, please speak up. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Mignot?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright?
Abstain.
Next is our regular agenda, resolution 22-10-309. I entertain a motion. Read it? Okay, I'll read it. Resolution of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, New Jersey, authorizing emergency appropriation petition to the Director of Division of Local Government Services in the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs to approve such emergency appropriation in accordance with NJSA 48-4-46 and NJSA 48-4-49. I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Mignot?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Winters? Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright?
Abstain.
Next is resolution R-2210-310, resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, New Jersey, authorizing the submission of an application to the New Jersey Local Finance Board pursuant to NJSA 48-2-51. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Mignot?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright?
Abstain.
We have one GTE Gov access email from Brian Burns at 5 Saltwood Drive, Ariel. Good evening, council. It's now been 10 months since Triad took on the responsibility of completing the Rossi for the DEP's Green Acres program. What is the status of the submission of this Rossi? Mr. Petrangelo, our planner, is here this evening. Mr. Petrangelo, how are you today?
Very good.
If you can give us an update and also address Mr. Burns' question.
Yes, we are working on the Rossi right now. What happened with Rossi is that there was a list of additional properties that Green Acres requested that we add to the report. We looked at those documents, found some errors in there, properties that should not be included. We are working with Triad, Green Acres, and the township to resolve those issues before we submit the document for approval.
Mr. Petrano, why would they add those properties to it?
Good question, frankly. What I believe happened is that Green Acres went through and found that vacant properties and decided to add those parcels to the list. But I haven't had it confirmed.
That's basically what I was told. Once you successfully complete a Green Acres acquisition, utilizing their funds, they then automatically get a list of all of the township-owned properties in an attempt to increase the number of properties on the Rossi list. And so they grab everything that's out there that's township-owned.
Once you work with Green Acres, all open space land, even if it's not on the Rossi form, is considered part of the Rossi. So there are obviously other land that the township has that is open, but it's not meant to be open space. Sometimes that land gets included in the Green Acres and they want to see it added to Rossi. And there are vacant lands that, we did not obtain for open space. There's no reason to have them as open space, and we're having a back and forth with Green Acres to address that.
So there's for lack of a better word, appeal process to appeal those properties being added. Negotiation.
It's a negotiations discussion, right?
Any other questions with regard for Mr. Petrangelo?
Any sense of time frame when we can have a resolution?
No, it shouldn't take too much longer. We have everything mapped out. We have everything coordinated. I'm going to go through with municipal staff, specific properties, and then clarify them with Green Acres.
So if Brian were here, he would probably say that this is holding up the acquisition of the other two properties that the township is looking to use Green Acres for. We have an update. Are they still interested in selling to the town?
It's my understanding they do, but I'm not involved in that process of it.
Thank you, Mr. Petrangelo.
Yeah.
We'll now open up the second public portion. Anyone wishing to speak, raise your hand. Each speaker is entitled to 5 minutes. There is a 30-minute time period for the second public portion. Ms. Smithman, I saw your hand up first.
Good evening again, Council. Shauna C. Smithman. I live in the SDK Millbridge Gardens apartment complex on Millbrook Court, apartment 341. Forgive me, Miss or Mrs. Albright. Welcome as a council member. For the public portions, let me say welcome and congratulations, Mr. Mignon, on being elected vice president. If I could go back, I know that it was already accepted for the consent agenda for the contract to read these license plate. Chief, may I ask you a question about that?
Yes.
Recently, the last car that I owned, my father owned, it was a Geo Prism. When I could no longer drive it, the license, I sold it to my cousin, but he didn't use the title. I don't know how he was able to insure it. I don't know how he was able to do anything without the title being signed over to him. And then I also found out that I had to turn in the license plate and they suspended my license. The Department of Motor Vehicles did. The Department of Motor Vehicles does not recognize my address at the SDK Millbridge Gardens apartment complex when written as a Millbridge Road. United States Postal Service assigned address. The state of New Jersey Department of Motor Vehicles only recognizes the address of the leasing office, the previous location for 1341 Blackwood Clementon Road, followed by the apartment number. Without driving the vehicle, I could not get the license plate back to the Department of Motor Vehicles. I had to give it to my aunt, my cousin's mother, my Aunt Joanne Smithman. I handed them to her. She said that she turned them in. I have to believe her. Her son was driving the car, my cousin. I said, I don't know how he's doing that. I had the title right here. Can no longer find the title, but I had some confusion. You're going through a lot of effort to keep up with these things because they're very important. How does somebody turn them in if they're no longer driving within the state of New Jersey? It's difficult to get to the motor vehicles.
License plates?
You just to turn them back in, because when you have a vehicle, you can pick them up.
So you can turn license plates here, we would turn them.
Oh, I could have done that? I didn't realize that. I thought it had to be a Department of Motor Vehicles. Like I said, I have no idea
That's
how it worked with them, that I haven't had the car since 2014, 15.
We regularly collect license plates through the course of doing business, and if someone were to turn in tags, we certainly report them.
My father, Harry Cortland Smithman Jr., is also deceased. I have the tags from when I purchased the car when he died, and I had to transfer the title over into my name, Shauna C. Smithman. I can turn in his tags at the local police department.
Take them right at the watch desk here.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you very much. Also, Council, if I could remind you once again that I think it's a very important to take into consideration the separation that we now have with technology increasing and being common use, people using the internet, their handheld devices, and social media for information. There is a very large gap that is not connected with the separation of government and non-government. Street signs are pretty much established as government as much as a United States Postal Service box. Although sometimes it can be confusing, they will change the paint and make it so you can drop off eyeglasses. But other than that, it's pretty standard. If you could please consider making it a standard to place on every street pole the address to the local police department and the local fire department. If you could place it at wheelchair height, if you could indicate it with a picture, one for the police and one for the local fire department for people that cannot read. If you could put Braille on each one for someone that cannot see. If you could also put it in raised or recessed writing so that somebody that cannot write the address, if at all possible, they could, get it, like trace it somehow using a chalk or a crayon even to get the address onto a postcard or an envelope to get information for non-emergencies to the local police and the local fire departments. There's a lot of information that would be very helpful that could prevent the emergencies for needing things that cost millions of dollars. We could possibly avoid it if there was a clear pathway to there. That could be considered at all. And with the 20 seconds, if I could, please also consider if the technology is made available to allow the members of the community an access place to pay fines and penalties, to make good on things that they might have watched or reproduced, things, movies, music, books, anything, if they could have a pathway to make good on that. If the technology is made available where they could go to the store and say, you know, I watched that movie I wasn't supposed to, and just have them pay it. That there's no path for a citizen to do that on their own.
Ms. Smithman, thank you for your comments. I'm just going to echo our previous stance on both of those items. That is not something that council was or the administration is going to pursue. But thank you for your comments.
And thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Krug.
Evening again, Council. Paul Krug,
Good evening.
Blackwood Estates. Welcome, Councilwoman Albright.
Thank you.
I typically like to have productive dialogue during this public portion, typically focused on downtown Blackwood or the township municipal budget. But unfortunately, this evening, my hand is pushed in a different direction. I'd much rather talk about those things. But I walked away the last time I was witness to this behavior, and it reared its ugly head. And now it's come back in an even more grotesque way. I'm talking about the infiltration of identity politics by Democrats in our local, supposedly nonpartisan Board of Education race. Democratic councilwomen Carolyn Grace and Andrea Stubbs felt it appropriate to pen a letter to Gloucester Township citizens, encouraging them to vote for the machines candidates. You know the ones. They're on the glossy flyers. While simultaneously hurling unfounded and racial and social economic bias claims at two independent, self-financed board.
Why are you ignoring me?
Because I'm
Pause the
utilizing my
clock.
5 minutes.
No. Pause the clock. Okay, is this governmental?
Yes.
This is governmental.
Mhm.
This has to do with the function of government here.
Yes.
It does.
May I continue, please?
So if it doesn't, I feel it doesn't, then I will stop you. If it's political, you can have that conversation with those individuals afterwards or beforehand or another time. But does this deal with the business of government here in Gloucester Township?
Yes, it does. I
Okay.
can provide you, Councilwoman Stubbs and Councilwoman Grace, Gloucester Township councilwomen are on this letter. No,
So,
may I,
no, hold
may
on.
I have my time back?
So, no, we still have, I paused the clock. So I'm gonna ask our solicitor, Mr. Carlmayer, okay, if he believes that this is not governmental or political, for him to make that call to stop you.
So I'm not familiar with what you're referring to. So, but you've indicated that two council members endorsed whatever you held out. Because someone is a member of council, they don't become a second-rate citizen where they can't express their feelings and reactions to whatever that is saying
And I do, I can't express my opinions and reactions.
So I'm not finished. So they have a right. They don't, just because they're sitting up here as council members, doesn't mean they don't have a right to express or weigh into any candidate for running for any position, whether it's a specific issue or not. They can express who they are and why they're responding. But this is a government meeting, and you have your time to speak on anything that affects this government. But to talk about what someone's personal choice or expression that is out there in political, this is not the forum to do that. Council President is correct.
Okay, well, you have no idea what's the rest written on the rest of my
Okay.
statement, so.
So again, I will stop you if it goes on, crosses that line. Please start the clock.
All right, I think where I left off was that they went after the candidates, Keith Gibbons, Dina Hendry, both who have children in the school system and actively attend Board of Education meetings. I do find it questionable that the councilwomen would use their official statuses to weigh in on a nonpartisan election and do so with blatantly false claims. But to move forward, let's look at those allegations and see why they're false. They stated that Keith and Dina questioned at these council meetings why low-income neighborhoods need playground sidewalks and community centers. It's impossible that Keith would have questioned these staples of any community because although he attends council meetings to stay informed, he does not participate in the open public dialogue portion. I know this because I've attended nearly every meeting for the last 3 years. For Dina, she does participate in the open public dialogue, but I have never heard her advocate for less services to be made available to a particular community. Although she would like to see Andrea Stubbs attend more than 50% of council meetings, since he takes 100% of taxpayer money. And she would like to see Carolyn Grace consider conflicts of interest when voting for redevelopment projects in her neighborhood. All quite reasonable, and certainly not quote unquote personal attacks that the councilwomen insinuate took place. Actually, I imagine that neither Andrea nor Carolyn has ever had an extended conversation or cup of coffee with Keith or Dina. I can't even get council to respond to my emails. If you are a constituent of Carolyn Grace or Andrea Stubbs, know that they have sold themselves to the identity politicking tactics of the Democratic machine and are actively trying to manipulate their supporters through deceitful statements.
Yeah, that was, okay. Ms. Hendry.
Good afternoon, Dina Hendry, Summerdale. 2 times the oath that you take to be a council member had done today, correct? And the word used was impartial. How is writing and sending a letter as a councilwoman displaying being impartial when residents are able to ask questions without prejudice? I want to take this time to kindly ask about the letter that was sent last week that states that it's from 2 councilwomen, Ms. Stubbs and Ms. Grace. Before I continue, can you kindly confirm that this had the authorization from you both to be sent to some of the residents at the township? Were you aware of it? Yay, nay? I'm going to take your silence as yes. Also, did it need the approval of rest of the council?
No, it wouldn't need an approval.
Okay. Before sending this letter, was the lawyer of the council consulted?
I commented, I didn't know.
You didn't know about it?
Referred to.
Okay. With that, can you explain why this was not sent to everybody in Gloucester Township, as you are counsel for all of Gloucester Township, not just certain areas of the township, especially with saying that a community action is needed? I would think that all of Gloucester Township residents would want to know what kind of action is needed. Also, can you review the meeting where these supposed attacks were made? From my understanding and review of the meeting on July 11th, 2022, in 15 minutes and 33 seconds, I asked about the process of abstaining from a vote. I did not at any time object to playgrounds, sidewalks, or affordable housing. I will say for the record, I have questioned the lack of attendance from a person that has been voted by the people who we pay out of our tax dollars. People have reached out about this letter to me, about the undertones that are being implied. I've told these people that I really don't think this letter is to cause a division. I'm hoping I am wrong. With that being said, please understand that what is being written can't be undone, but a retraction can, as this letter is dangerous without factual evidence and information. Also, I would like to apologize for attending your meetings. I thought this was an open meeting, and I thought being a resident and a taxpayer, that meant that I could attend meetings and ask questions during the second open session. If I am wrong, please point me to the correct meeting where I can freely exercise my First Amendment right without being twisted or held against me. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has not spoken? Ms. Smithman, you have one more turn and you'll be our last speaker. Oh, you like to speak, Mr. Sweet? Okay. Well, Ms. Smithman, we're gonna let Mr. Sweet go first. Take a seat there, please. You can take a seat to the right or left. I think that's Mr. Heimball, if you like.
I'll just go back to my seat.
Okay.
Good evening, Council. Sam Sweet from Ariel.
Good evening.
This letter was paid for by the Gloucester Township Citizens for Government Reform. The chairperson is Mr. Carlemer's wife. So I find it hard to believe that he was unaware that this letter went out. So you state that you no knowledge that your wife, are you aware that your wife is the chairperson of this PAC?
Before you read it, I would say I was not aware. She is.
So you're not aware of this?
What's that again?
Mr. Heimball, please no cat calling, folks.
I just didn't understand.
Mr. Heimball, Mr. Heimball.
I just didn't understand. So your specific question, I am not aware.
You are not aware of what your wife sends out literature-wise? And you are,
Wait, she's not sending out. What does it say? Chairperson of the committee?
it says, this is paid for by this GT Citizens for Government Reform. And when you do an elect search, New Jersey elect search, she is the chairperson for this PAC, okay? Which is in charge of sending out this literature against anybody who goes up against you guys. So my question is, you are unaware of that?
I'm not aware.
You're not aware of that?
I'm not aware.
Okay, do we find, does council find that that's something's wrong with that, that the chair, that council, your council, his wife is sending out literature against your opponents, whether they be school board candidates, political candidates? I'd like to finish, President Mercado.
Well, we're gonna pause the clock again.
Okay,
Is this governmental?
it is
It's
governmental.
not governmental.
It is governmental
Not
because
governmental.
it is because I think that
Sam,
If
Sam, it's paused. You can continue this conversation, Mr. Carlemer, another time. Okay, now we're getting into PACs. We're not talking about PACs. This is not governmental here. Okay?
your council, who advises you,
We're not.
your council, does your council advise you? Yes or no?
Yes, he does. We're
Okay,
not talking about PACs and whose wife is running a PAC. You did your research, okay? We're not talking about PACs. This has nothing to do with government. We can have that
actually does, because you're taking it, all right, let me ask this question. I'll ask it again. He advises council, correct?
Start the clock then. If I feel it's governmental, I'm
All
gonna
right.
stop you again.
He advises council, correct?
Yes,
Okay, do you take his advice? If there's an issue, you take his advice.
yes.
Okay, so his wife is attacking candidates and he has no knowledge of it. So you're telling me that they don't talk about it, there's no knowledge of it whatsoever? And he has no, again, he said, I have no knowledge of it.
That's correct.
If he says he has.
And there's no
knowledge,
influence there.
He has no knowledge. He just answered your question, Mr. Sweet. Is there anything else?
No, there's not, but that's absolutely ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Coyne?
Denise Coyne, Hughes Landing. I would just like to remind council that the citizens that attend these council meetings have a First Amendment right that allows them to address their government without fear of retaliation. You all realize that, correct?
Yes, and
Okay.
Ms. Coyne, we are also citizens as well. Is that right not afforded to us?
There's a
If-
difference.
No, may I finish?
If you stop the clock,
if
yes, you
they
may.
express their opinion, are they not entitled to their opinion? Now, granted, the bar is set higher for us. We should act in a certain way and carry
That's
ourselves
exactly
in a
correct.
certain way.
And do you know why?
But it does
Because you
not-
took an
Ms.
oath.
Coyne, Ms. Coyne, I'm speaking here. But I guess that doesn't apply. So if they wanted to express their opinion, and I guess you don't like it, they need to shut up.
I never said that.
It's
You said that.
inappropriate.
I didn't say that.
Okay, then what do you say?
I am saying that we as citizens have a right to free speech in a public forum in
Okay,
front of our representatives without fear of retaliation. You, as council members, differ from us as citizens because you, as council members, took an oath and put your hands on a Bible and swore to uphold our constitutional rights, which include the ability to speak freely in a public setting without fear of retaliation. You all swore to uphold our right to do so. You also swore to be impartial. That's what separates you from me. You chose to be a public servant. I did not. Therein lies the difference. Correct?
no,
Why not?
I disagree. But
How
that's
could you
okay.
disagree? Did
I
you not
disagree.
take an oath and swear to uphold the Constitution?
Absolutely. And in their roles, and anyone's role here, governmentally, yes, impartially, justly perform their duties as a council person. This, again, is a political thing. You want to have the discussion out in the parking lot, we can have the discussion in the parking lot.
Okay, then why did
Okay,
they
you wanna take it
identify as
afterwards.
councilwomen and send the letters out as community action? They did not identify as citizens. They
I have
identified
not
as
seen the letter. I've heard the letter. I haven't
councilwomen.
seen it.
Councilwomen, not citizens. There's a big difference. If you're acting as a citizen, you're entitled to your own public, whatever you want to say to anybody. If you're representing yourself as a council person, you have an obligation to represent us. If you don't, this is no longer a democracy. We have no say in our government if you people cannot impartially and fairly represent us. This is no longer a democracy. We have no say in our government if you do not hold true to your oath. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Ms. Fritz, followed by Ms. O'Donnell. Ms. Smithman, you've spoken. Once everyone has a chance to speak, Ms. Smithman, you may speak if there's time left in the 30 minutes.
Hi, Terry Fritz, Blackwood, New Jersey.
Good evening, Ms. Fritz. How are you?
I am not here to argue, to accuse anybody of anything. I have been a resident of this town for 51 years. I've spent the last 2 years at just about every Board of Ed meeting in Gloucester Township because children and what's going on there is my primary concern. I don't come to council meetings, and the only reason I'm here tonight is I want to question what you just said, which normally don't question, but I want to question.
You came here to just question what I
When I go to
said?
Board of Ed meeting,
Okay.
all those people on that board were elected. I voted for them, other people voted for them. That's how they're there. So when they take their oath, they swear to be nonpartisan, but they also swear that when they are going to make a comment, whether it be on social media, whether it be on any kind of paper, that they preface it with, "This is my personal opinion. I am not giving this as a school board member." So I saw this letter, that both of these women, this one I know, that one I don't know. And I know she's been a principal for a long time. I respected her as that. So this is not personal. This doesn't have anything to do with race or anything like that. Why is it different here? Why were they allowed, or whoever did it for them, to put out a paper as councilwomen. Why didn't they have to preface it with, this is my personal opinion? Because that's basically what that letter is their personal opinion, their interpretation of what was asked of them. I went back, just as so many of my neighbors and people who got this letter did, and looked at that council meeting to see if in fact two people running for the Board of Ed did attack our councilwomen. And I'm sorry, but the video does not support that. Neither one of those candidates said anything of the kind about not wanting playgrounds or that they were against where that development was or who lived there or its economic means. It wasn't like that. So I would really like an answer as to why Board of Ed members have to preface it that they are speaking for themselves and not as board members, but council people don't have to do that. That's my only question.
Ms. Palmer, as our solicitor, can you respond to that?
Well,
It's a political.
Oh, they're both elected, right? The Board of Ed's elected and you're elected.
I think you're setting a precedent right now that we need to steer clear of. This has all been politics, and we've never done this before. This chamber has always been a legislative body, and we're allowing it to become something else today. And that's a slippery slope.
It's because the council.
Mr. Cohen, please don't
I'm
catcall.
talking to you, Mr. Mercado.
Yes.
You need to gather this. This is political.
This isn't political. School board
This
is
is
nonpartisan. It is a nonpartisan body.
I
No matter where you look, it says
But
it's
guess what?
nonpartisan.
This is not the school board, okay? This is a legislative body here that discusses legislative things, okay?
And so you
This
don't
is
have,
not-
you don't have to preface that it's your opinion, as the school board does. You don't,
A
it's
person's
those
opinion.
elected officials have to preface
A
it.
person's opinion is their opinion. They can voice it outside of this room, and I'm not going to tell
It wasn't
anybody
outside of
I'm
this
not
room.
gonna tell anybody up here that they can't voice an opinion
Okay.
outside of this room.
And I'm going to tell you, they didn't voice their opinion. They wrote it in black and white
But
and
guess
sent it
what?
out to residents, and they made it look like it came from council because they are council women, and they put that on there. Now, had they not put
This
it
is
as
a
council
legislative
women, it would not have been political. So
This
I
is a
think,
legislative body.
yeah,
And
and
that's what it should be, and that's what it should remain. Mr. Mercado, I
It's-
ask that you.
I'm sorry,
attend.
51 years I've been here, that's a prejudiced opinion. You're
What?
saying,
That's a
yours,
legislative
that
body,
this
that's
is,
a
no,
prejudiced
that this situation is political. It's not political. It's a school board that's nonpartisan. You're making it political by injecting council into the school board. I lived here for 51 years. We used to vote separately. I'm sure you all know that. School board elections were held in
And I-
April so that none of this would happen. They wouldn't mix. They wouldn't
Would
be on the
love to
ballot with
have a
politicians.
conversation after this, I think.
I don't want a conversation after it. I just want to know why you don't have.
Grandstand political views in a legislative.
It's not a
body.
grand, listen, I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay,
I'm not
hold
arguing.
on. Let's stop this. No,
There was
no-
no answer to my
We're not going
question.
back
Right,
and
there is
no.
no answer, this is a political question.
What?
Ms. French,
You don't
Ms.
have to
French,
preface
Mr.
it.
Hutchinson, we're gonna stop this.
Okay.
Mr.
You always
Carlemere,
do.
Mr. Carlemere is gonna respond to your question, Ms. French. We're not gonna raise our voices here. He's gonna give you a response.
Well, I don't know why he
We're
was
not gonna go back
answering
and forth. He's gonna give you a response,
me.
okay?
He should have answered me in the first place.
So
Ms. French.
I've heard several allegations as to what was put out there and labels were put on that. And I'll just say it again, council person has a right to free speech like anyone else. And what that content is put out there and what purpose is put out there and how they identify themselves, I'm not familiar with it. And I can't answer that because I don't know the content of what was there. And I was not part of that. So I can't tell you, well, they shouldn't have done this, or they should have done that, or they should have changed this, because I don't know the content. But I'm going to tell you clearly, a person sitting up here as an elected official doesn't become a second-rate citizen, which means they can't respond what their opinion is on something they see out there and they disagree.
I agree.
And they can do that.
I agree with that, but they shouldn't represent themselves as a council person. They should represent themselves as Mrs. Stubbs or Mrs. Grace, just like the people on the Board of Ed have to do. They have to say that they are not speaking as a Board of Ed elected official. They are speaking as their own opinion. And that letter does not say anything about this is my own opinion. And that's
Thank
all
you,
I
Ms.
have to
Brett.
say.
Ms. O'Donnell, you're our last speaker.
Jen O'Donnell, Ariel. I'm just gonna read your own agenda to you. On public portion, it says public participation, which shall be any item the public chooses to address the township council. Any item. It doesn't say anything about legislative body, governmental body, any item. That's what your agenda says. Thanks.
Thank you. With that, we'll close the second public portion. Polling of directors.
Mr. Carlo.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Curtis.
Nothing to report.
Chief Harkins.
Just want to thank council for consideration and passing the ordinance updating. As we move towards the accreditation process, we move through it. We're in the final stages doing tests and doing proofs, and we hope to achieve the accreditation early 2023. So we'll keep you posted. Thank you. Have a good night.
Mr. Chavo.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Angelo.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Hutchinson.
Thank you for coming.
Ms. Grace. Everybody have a safe night. Mr. Mignon.
Everybody have a great week. Ellen, welcome.
Mrs. Stubbs. Thank you for coming out. Mrs. Winters.
That's good. Welcome, Helen. Congratulations, Michael, and everyone have a great week.
Mrs. Albright.
Just want to thank everybody for coming out to the meeting. It was an interesting meeting, and I appreciate council, everything you've done to get all your votes, or whoever voted for me to get up here. I just want to thank you again for that. I really appreciate it. And I hope I do everybody good justice, and I hope you're all proud of me by the end of whatever term I have here. I thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Mr. Mercado.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this evening. Welcome, Helen. For those who don't know, Helen has been a longtime resident of Gloucester Township. First in Glen Hive and now where she lives. Helen was a former councilwoman here and also a Camden County Commissioner. She's been a longtime member of the Board of Trustees at Camden County College and an advocate for many groups and organizations. So you are a welcome addition here. Thank you for your interest in serving here on council. I want to thank everyone that attended the Food and Beer Trucks Festival. Thanks Police Department, Public Works, Gloucester Township Scholarship Committee for putting that event on. It was very successful. This Friday, we have Trunk or Treat. So all you folks that attended Trunk or Treat last year, we have plenty of spots available on Friday. If you want to register, it's out here in Veterans Park. There will be thousands of kids and people out there. I know it's the game one of the World Series. So you can DVR and check it out. It runs from 7 to 9. There are hay rides, free hot chocolate, candy, and a DJ. With that, I entertain the motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All those in favor? Have a great evening, everyone.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm sure she's yeah, it wasn't my fault.
Chief, how you doing, man?